Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we actually have a very special video for you guys today. So I actually didn't notice that within the last 3 months or so, since I've been making like PvE content stuff, I've gone up like 40% subscribers within like the last couple months. Don't get it twisted. It only went from like 1K to 1.4, so you know nothing times doubled is still nothing, but still. So as a reward, I thought to myself, well, damn, I better start making some more videos for these guys. And so I decided that now would be the time for me to make the video that I probably should have made something like 6 months ago, and that you guys will probably, a lot of you will probably be angry at me that I didn't actually make 6 months ago. But quick little history lesson. So, I don't think there is, to my knowledge, I hate saying this because it's the sad truth of the matter. If I haven't made a PvP guide video about Paladin, it probably doesn't exist. And I haven't really made a PvP guide about healing in Battlegrounds. The best that I ever got on that, as close as I ever got to actually doing that, was, I think it was Pallycast episode 3. It was like the first Pallycast where Talrain comes in. I made a video where I theory crafted about Repent for Holy in healing in Battlegrounds, particularly in Ranked. And so Talrain watched the video and he went and tested it, and so we had a Pallycast, a very long Pallycast talking about healing in BGs. But I myself was very inexperienced with it. But about 7 months ago, I actually ended up ranking to 13, and I got so horrifyingly introduced to high-level healing in Battlegrounds, because whoever was left in Era at the time was not messing around. This was before the flood of incomers to Era for hardcore. So I got to see firsthand, like, you know, mind control helmets, like what they're doing all over the place, rocket helms all over the place, so forth and so on. Very, very interesting play, to be sure. But long story short is, where once I was the learner on this subject of healing in Battlegrounds, I am now the master. So it's about time I get off my butt and make a damn video about it. Could have made this video earlier, like I said, but to be perfectly honest, it's just not a topic that's like near and dear to my heart, so I just couldn't really motivate myself to do it. But since we got some motivation, I guess we'll get up off our butt and actually do our damn job. Okay, so, not to waste your guys' time, because there's probably going to be a lot of people who are watching this video who are experienced healers in Battlegrounds, and you're just watching this video to see if you can't learn anything new. So when I got done healing in Battlegrounds, or more accurately while I was ranking, I was also in communication with both Talrain, Peaceblade, Minnow, Terkova, people who actually are experienced healers in Battlegrounds, and I ran my ideas past them. And some of them were even kind of new and inspiring to them. And some of them were just ideas that they were like, yeah, I should do more of that. So if you're an experienced healer, I'll just tell you right now, the things that I told them that impressed the things that I told experienced healers in Battlegrounds that even impressed them. Okay, so that way you don't have to watch the entirety of this video and not really learn things, yada, yada, yada. So the most important thing, the thing that impressed them the most by far, give me this, I want this, I don't want that, was I would save Blessing of Protection specifically to counter enemy melee classes, like warriors that have kicks, so specifically like warriors and rogues. So if a warrior or a rogue would jump on top of me or intercept out to me to try to stop my healing, I would just bop myself and continue healing them. This is a terrible strategy for the warrior or the rogue who's doing this, because usually when you're healing somebody, as this diagram shows, you're off in Narnia. You're like 30 yards away from the thing that you're healing, because your heals have like a 40-yard range, right? So if a warrior was out here and he suddenly intercepted on top of you, let me see if I can visualize this in case we got some OCD people here. So if a warrior was fighting this guy and he sees me healing in the background, he runs over a little bit. It's only got like a 25-yard intercept range, and zoom, he's physically on top of you. You just use Blessing of Protection. And the problem this warrior has is he's a million miles away from the combat. He can't run back into combat. He just use Intercept to get on top of you. And he can't kick you anymore. So he basically has to sit there and watch you heal. All he can really do is grenade. But if you recall correctly, my Holy Paladin build is weird/unique, and I actually highly advise this, where I have extremely heavy fire resistance. Like I don't have Hand of Rag on my build, but I was running around with something stupid like 135 fire resist. No, actually, that's not even true. It was more like 165 fire resist. If I had Hand of Rag, it would shoot. Nah, that's not even true because I had Ebon Hand most of the time. Anyways, yeah, about 100. Yeah, I remember now. 172 fire resist exactly. Okay, cool. That's enough fire resist that a grenade is going to whiff on me about, let me think, 44% of the time, give or take. At 190 fire resist, it's 50% chance to resist. It's actually 45 plus the innate 5% chance to resist stuns. At 200 fire resist, it would be a 55% chance to resist the innate. So all they can do is throw a grenade at you. If it was a rogue, the rogue's in the same issue. He's out here in Narnia. He can't kick you to interrupt you while you're healing. All he can do is blind you, which isn't going to do fuck all because you've got, what is it? Blessing of Sacrifice on something. So what'll happen is you'll be casting a spell. He'll blind you, and then the blind will immediately break, but at least he stopped that heal kind of a thing. But it cost him his blind, which is a really bad trade. They can also try to nade you. It's a really hard time for any melee class to stop you from healing, just because you bopped. And of course, when bop runs out, you can always throw your stun and tell them to shut the hell up. If you really need to heal somebody, like a rogue jumps on you and you really just need to get a heal off, often I would just bop and stun the rogue and then heal. And it sounds like a waste, but at least the rogue can't do anything, right? So sometimes you'll bop and throw. Against the warrior, you could just try throwing the stun. If it doesn't work, then you bop. But against the rogue, because you're going to be stunned to the nines, you bop to remove the stuns because they're all physical. You throw your stun, you stun him, and then you get your heals off, and away you go. So that was the one thing that, in theory, really impressed Drakova, Peaceblade, and Talrain. They were like, damn, that's actually a really good idea. Okay, so the other one that impressed them, but this is more the one that they know to do, but they just need to do it more. And that is, if you see certain classes running at you, run away. So, for example, priests are a very good example. What's another really good example? Warlocks are a bit of a good example. So the reason why a priest is such a good example is they have an AoE fear, but it's only a 10-yard range. So if you see a priest stop doing whatever the hell they're doing and physically start running at you, he's only doing that for one reason, and that's to get within range so he can fear you. So what do you do as the paladin? You just kind of run away. Like, why let him fear you? Like why? So you run away for as long as you can. You'll be like cleanse, 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 freedom, blessing of protection, doing your thing while you're running. If you have to get a heal off, you'll just stop and 6 seconds stun him, and then go for some more heals. I don't know if priests have PvP trinket that can remove stuns. If they do, that would be. I've never seen them use it in PvP. They probably do. I just never seen them use it. But yeah, so try running away from priests. Running away from warlocks also super good. The lock fear is only a 20-yard range, and it's like a 1.5 second cast, right? So it's very easy for us paladins to be like, oh, are you casting fear? Let me just, walk away a bit or run away a little bit. Oh, look, your fear didn't work. Let me do a flash of light. And they run after you, and you get your flash of light off, and you run away, and they do it again all over again. Because the warlock has to come awfully close, like within 10 yards of you, to actually be able to get a fear off if you're running away pretty quickly once they start trying to cast the fear. Just remember that leeway is a thing. It'll add like plus 3 yards, I think, to everything. So stopping, but we'll talk about that later in the video. So yeah, know your ranges and run away is something everyone should do more. The only other thing that people were mildly interested about, this is a thing that us high-tier paladins have learned, and us high-tier players have learned, but maybe not a lot of other people have learned, and that is the succubus. Succubi in PvP are they're even more of the bane of our healing existence than mages with counterspell and sheep. We hate succubus, because succubi can just spam cast seduction and stop us from healing for like a million years at like a 30-yard range. The annoying thing about them is they've only got like 2,000 HP and no hit points. So the counter to succubuses is just to yell at your warriors and your hunters and your fellow PvPers that if they see a succubus, just kill them. Literally type in chat. If you see a succubus, if you literally what I type is I'm like, if you want heals, if you see a succubus, kill a succubus. They've only got 2,000 HP and no armor. You just look at them funny and they die. Otherwise, we just can't heal as paladins with the succubus going. It's not that we can't, quote-unquote, break out of it from Blessing of Sacrifice. It's the fact that, you know, I'll spend 2 seconds casting a spell, and then I'll get seduced. Then I'll break out of it instantly. And then I have to spend another 2 seconds, get seduced, to break out of it instantly. You get the point, right? So it stops me from healing for like a million years in the hands of a good player. Super annoying. I eventually trained my warriors that were in the BG with me to just intercept on them and basically just use them as a rage battery. Because, again, they got no fucking armor, right? So they would literally just intercept or charge into the succubus and hit it once, and the rage bar would just shoot up massively because it's got no armor. It's got no armor, it's got no shields, it's just going to like, die instantly, and then they can immediately get on the warlock, and they're good to go. So anyways, if you just wanted to watch this video briefly for information, if you're experienced, and that was just the information, I'm not going to say anything past this point that you probably already haven't heard. The TLDR of me talking about things is going to be like, know your ranges on enemy spellcasts, and then basically just use your range to use range specifically to avoid being CC'd. And then the other component is we use, these are only 3 abilities that I really use in PvP. There are more options, like, you know, Skull of Impending Doom or stuff like that. I didn't really find that all that useful in the grand scheme of things. Just Blessing of Sacrifice, like, I'd have, like, Blessing of Sacrifice on, like, 6 targets at a time, and just like, whatever. You save these abilities for very specific things. Like, Blessing of Protection is saved very specifically for counting melee. Bubble is saved very specifically for either when the other things are on cooldown, or for, like, a very desperate fight where your healing is not going to be enough innately. Like, if you find yourself in a 4v2 scenario, you and a fellow warrior or a fellow rogue are in a 4v2 scenario, you're just going to pop Bubble and you're going to heal, spam heal Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light, and that's just what it is, right? Because otherwise, the two of you aren't going to accomplish anything. PvP Trinket is saved specifically for any time that you just desperately need it. An example would be if for some reason I get blinded and I'm not being broken out very quickly, or some reason I get sheeped and I'm not being broken out very quickly just because they're not attacking the person, they're attacking something else. I don't know why I don't have Blessing of Sacrifice on it, but every now and then your Blessing of Sacrifice just wears off, and you're getting ready to put another one up because you're busy, and the next thing you know, you get a hard CC, and you're just like, ah, shit. So it's kind of like just the emergency backup to counter everything else that's going on. Anything else? Frost Trap, maybe? Yeah, it's just the catch-all trinket that bridges the gap between not having Bubble and not having Pop. And having... Yeah, sometimes I'll end up screwing up my play. Like, I'll be a little too close and I'll get CC'd, and I'll be like, no. I just need a no button. Like, I let that priest get too close and fear me, and I know I can't handle not being able to heal for like 10 seconds. I'll just say no, and I'll just start healing. But it's important to know what to save what, and you will basically just always have cooldowns. All right, so I'm going to talk about this in more detail now that I've been talking for 15 minutes, and that's the TLDR version. All right, so one thing I found super useful when I was healing in PvP was I'm so experienced from making all the guides and PvPing back in the day that I know the ranges on everything. And I have the ranges listed out here, and I even have their class icon. So this is who can CC you and at what ranges. Now, this is not 100% accurate because some of these things have, like, plus or minus 5 yards. So, for example, Scatter Shot is in the 20-yard range mark, but it's only got a 15-yard range. Intercept and Charge are in the 30-yard range, even though they have a 25-yard range. The reason for this is because when you're healing in PvP, you're almost always using Holy Light, specifically. and it's very easy for an enemy to notice you're casting Holy Light and then to meander the 5 yards over towards you to CC you. So if something is like, you know, this is also one of the reasons why things like Blind that are and Priest Fear that are a 10-yard range are not in the 20-yard range, even though theoretically they could run fast enough to do it. Because I'm basically giving like a 5-yard leeway. That's also why Warrior and Rogue Kick are in the 10-yard range, even though they're technically a 5-yard range. Melee range is 5 yards, because they can literally see you healing, walk over there, and hit you. All right, cool. Nice big drink of water. Slow down, collect my thoughts. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice when you list it all out is there is not a lot of interrupts. More importantly, there's a precious handful of interrupts at the 30-yard range, and there's really only one class that can consistently do that effectively enough to piss us off, and that is Mage. And specifically, the only Mage ability that's going to affect us is Counterspell. Alright, so I already talked about why Blessing of Protection is a big deal. So you can see with Blessing of Protection, we could have like 5 warriors intercept on us, and we're still going to be healing no problem with Blessing with, Blessing of Protection on alone. Like we might see some grenades come out of them, but as long as you have high fire resist, and I highly suggest you have high fire resist when you're healing in BGs, it's not going to be a problem. Also, if you have like X number of warriors on top of you, the scenario almost always is going to be that they pulled their DPS out of the equation, so it's kind of like healing is easier now. Thank you. I mean, what are we doing here? Druids, all they have is charge, so they can charge you and interrupt it like one time. Some of them can come out and like War Stomp you. I think War Stomp is physical, so you can bop against it if you want to. Usually what'll happen is a druid will jump on you, you'll 6-second stun them, ask them if they have their PvP trinket. If you see the PvP trinket come out and you really don't want to get War Stomped, I think you can bop. I've never ever had a druid do this to me though. The main reason for that being that druids are super rare and they're almost always flag runners in battlegrounds, right? You're almost never in like this weird 1v1 I need to heal people scenario with like it just doesn't happen. So it's so rare that I could not honestly tell you if Blessing of Protection works against War Stomp. No idea. Mage is by far the most annoying. Sheep spam can be super annoying from a mage, but that's a really high level tactic, and that's more your team's fault than your fault. But it's still taking their DPS out of the equation, so you rarely see it. What sheep spam is specifically is it's just like the succubus spam, where, yeah, you have Blessing of Sacrifice on something. If you don't know what Blessing of Sacrifice is, you can put it on a target. It lasts 30 seconds. You can put it on multiple allies. I put it on everything that's dog. Like if there's 6 guys around me, 6 guys are getting Blessing. Like the warrior might have freedom and everybody else has Blessing of Sacrifice. When they take damage, like 55 points of that damage is transferred to you. You can try downranking it, but don't bother. Just use the max rank of it. We're trying to keep people alive here. We don't care about ourselves. You never even notice the damage you take from it after a while, so don't even worry about it. So what this means is that they sheep you. Again, it's just like the succubus thing. They spend the 1.5 seconds to sheep you. You break out of it immediately. You start casting a heal. They start casting a sheep. Their sheep gets off first. It cancels your healing, but then you break out of it immediately. And so they can just stop you from healing for like a good, 10 seconds or something stupid like that. Very annoying, but this means that there's a mage out in the middle of fucking nowhere, like out in left field. Like if I go to this other thing here, where's the mage icon? Give me the mage icon. Doop, boop, boop. So I just drag him out here. No! Stupid. I hate that so much. One sec here. Boop, boop. Okay. So literally if there's a fight going on out here, the mage will be like over here casting sheep. Or not even over here, like way up here, like 30 yards away, like casting sheep on you. This is kind of your team's fault. Like, if that's happening, it's usually your team's fault. Usually what happens in PvP is that the mage will be out there casting sheep repeatedly on you, and he'll get to his second sheep cast, and there'll be a warrior that just intercepts on him. because the warrior is like, oh, hell fucking no. Warriors are like super sensitive to people that are fucking with their healers. It's actually kind of fascinating. People have gotten good enough to know this. So if you don't know, I used to play a warrior back in the day. When you're playing a warrior, your camera is often looking at the healers in your rear. You're constantly, like you're fighting something in melee, you have him hamstrung, he's not going anywhere. You don't need to look at him in order to hit him, so you spin your camera around and you look at your healers. Because specifically what you're looking for is you're looking for like a rogue decloaks off of your healer's starboard bow and like, starts giving him the business. Then you just, switch stances and intercept to him immediately. Or, if you have to switch stances, usually you're always in berserk stance, but whatever. No, sweeping strikes is battle stance, so maybe you're in battle stance. So you'll just intercept onto the rogue and start giving him the business. That's a good warrior. The same thing goes for mages who are out in Narnia casting sheep. They're going to get a warrior on them in a matter of moments. That's just what's going to happen. Usually how they got out there in Narnia was they blinked into Narnia and they went for a sheep. Really good warriors will be watching the mage. They'll see the blink. They'll see them starting to cast sheep, and then the mage won't even get the sheep off. He'll just get intercepted, and then he has to ice block or die immediately. Warriors, really good warriors, and this is most warriors, honestly, that's just how things are. So if this is happening to you, it's the warrior's fault. And this also goes, of course, for succubus, right? If you're getting succubied, just yell at your warriors to kill the succubus, inform them they have no armor, and it's basically just a rage. It's a rage pinata, and they will oblige with a vengeance. It's actually kind of terrifying. I'm talking like they're chasing after a warlock, and the succubus decloaks behind them and starts casting seduce, and the warrior just spins around and intercepts and murders the succubus. Actually, usually what they do is they'll take the time to get like a hamstring. Ideally, they'll take the time to get a hamstring or a piercing, a slow, basically. I guess you guys may not know the terminology. A slow on the warlock, and they'll intercept and blah, 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 blah. But a good warrior is absolutely psychotic about doing whatever they can to support the healers. We're going to need to talk more about warriors later, because there's a notion of difference between a bad played warrior and a good played warrior, and you need to react accordingly. All right, so very quickly we can see as a paladin, we don't really have a lot of things that can mess with us too much at the 30-yard range. I really should put rogue in here, because technically a rogue could mess with us at the 30-yard range. Like, realistically speaking, they are a stealth unit, so a rogue could theoretically pop up. But anything, we already talked about this, just use, literally say Blessing of Protection for dealing with enemy meleeers who can kick you. And, yeah, it's usually not an issue. You can't do anything about Counterspell. When you get Counterspelled as a Paladin, you basically just have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs for a little bit. There's some counterplay there, but I wouldn't mess around with it all that much. Like, if you see a mage blink forward, you could, like, stop casting your spell and try to jabate or outplay the counterspell and go right back to spell casting. That's actually a lot easier than you think it would be, because so few paladins actually do it. So basically, you watch the mage, you're like, okay, I see you, and then all of a sudden he blinks forward, and you just stop casting your spell. The next action out of the mage will be a counterspell. Counterspell is not on the global cooldown. But it does need the game to register that he's physically within range, right? So there's like a 0.2 or a 0.3 second delay before counterspell. There's another delay with counterspell, technically, if you ever watch a mage, and that is because I have a mage. When you click counterspell, it doesn't go off immediately. Their hand actually has to come up, and then counterspell goes off, and that takes about 1/10 of a second. So a combination of the game needing to load in before it can register that the mage is actually in range, and then the hand coming up, very easy for you to stop casting and to debate. That'll only work on a mage a couple times in the same battleground, and very quickly they might know your name if you do that too often. So I after a while, I just don't bother. Like, I'll try it once in the battleground, see if it works or not. If it works, awesome. If it didn't work, I usually don't do it again. But usually when you're getting counterspelled, you can watch the mage, and you'll just notice if if he held back on the counterspell or if he did it instantaneously. And if he's always doing it instantaneously, then, you know, whatever. Usually it's not a problem. And this is, I have to go back over here to explain why usually this isn't a problem. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, counterspells, mages are really abundant, counterspell is going to be a nightmare, yada, yada, yada. Let me explain to you why this isn't really a problem. Normally, there's a fucking war that, like, wherever the warrior is, he's kind of mobile death. All right? So, usually, there'll be, like, a fight going on in this general area. And a mage wants to try to counterspell you. It's only got like 30 yards. So what does a mage do? Mages don't want to be directly behind the warrior because then their path to try to counterspell the paladin is something stupid. Like I have to go out here and then blink within range and then counterspell. They usually like to start on a flank. Mages really like to start on a flank. That way all they have to do is move forward, blink, and then they can counterspell you. The reason why this isn't a problem is we end up in that scenario that we just talked about. We end up with a mage in this general vicinity trying to counterspell you. Your ally warrior is going to intercept right on top of him. So it'll be like, oh, because there'll be like 3 people over here where the warrior is, right? Like all the DPS is over here. Mage just counterspelled you. What the mage wants to do now is cast spells into the warrior to add his DPS to the scenario. Well, as soon as he counterspells you, he'll start going for a frostbolt, and the next thing you know, the warrior will just intercept on top of him, and this mage will have to ice block. Well, this intercept does 2 things. It removes him from the vast majority of the danger of the DPS. It gets him closer to the paladin. You as the paladin, you're not really running forward. You're probably running back to get more distance because you want to be within 30 yards of the warrior. You're basically... You're doing range tanking. You're not really tanking, you're just avoiding CC, but you're using range to avoid CC, so we're going to call it range tanking. But the warrior's move in this scenario is to not stay within this ocean of DPS and let the mage free cast. It's to intercept on top of the mage and ask him nicely, do you have an ice block? Because if you don't, you're about to get cut to pieces. Once this mage ice blocks, the warrior just keeps running. He usually has freedom on him, so he just keeps running away. If everybody here is chasing one of 2 things. They're either chasing you or they're chasing him. The warrior just keeps running away. In 6 seconds, he'll be out of combat, and you can just get right back on top of the mage. He's not worried. And basically, we're just waiting out counterspell and kind of resetting the situation. That's good warrior play. Bad warrior play is he stands here like a dumbass in the middle of all this damage. He catches a few frostbolts to the back and he explodes. All the while, you can't do anything. If he's really, really bad, then he also yells at you that you didn't heal him. So usually that's not a problem. Why did the mage not go here and try to blink forward? Because now the warrior doesn't even usually have to counterspell. He can literally just turn around, meander his happy little ass over, and then ask the mage if he has ice block. And if the mage doesn't have ice block, he dies. This is technically better because at least the warrior doesn't have anything that he can intercept on to get out of combat. But usually it's not just a warrior here. Usually it'll be like a rogue and some other stuff, or some hunters are around here or something. Mages have learned that blinking into the middle of the combat as opposed to the flank is usually kind of suicidal. And so they usually don't like to do it. They'd rather take their chances on the flank attack. Really good mages will still be mounted, and they'll actually ride all the way around, so they're even outside of intercept range. So they'll ride to about here, they'll blink to about here, they're out of intercept range, and then they'll CC you. This is when things are dangerous, so they're way out here in Narnia, because the warrior can't get out of things. Alright, so that's why that really isn't that big of a deal, because when you get counterspelled, usually there's something the warrior can intercept to. Also, really good warriors will save major cooldowns and stuff. Defensive cooldowns for if their healer is counterspelled. Shield wall comes to mind. Parry retaliation comes to mind. Their giant fuck off plus 30% life trinket comes to mind. AGM comes to mind. All that stuff. Keep in mind, once the counterspell is gone, everybody dies. All right, literally everybody dies. Yeah, and of course you have counterplay options, yada, yada, yada. So that's what you do against mages doing the whole counterspell thing. Succubus, yell at your warrior to kill them. Blessing and protection for these 2 guys. Druid is never a thing. Okay, so we just covered life at the 30-yard range mark. Like that's it. That's all there is to it. Or like, there's literally like, oh, there's a mage. Did I try to outplay the counterspell? I failed. Okay, cool. I'm counterspelled. Run away. Literally, just start running away. If the warrior can't figure out that he needs to intercept or turn around or whatever the hell, or do whatever, yeah, leave him be. Is what it is. Usually what'll happen is the mage will blink forward, try to counterspell you, and the nearest hunter will say, oh my goodness, you look like a juicy steak. And he'll ice block because he's taking massive damage, and the warrior will intercept on the ice block anyways just because he wants to get the hell out of the middle. Really fascinating stuff. Oh, there's other ways I forgot. Warriors can also disengage. Like if the mage blinked to like here, there's another weird way the warrior can disengage, and that is literally just to run away. I know that sounds insane, that he can just run away, but you have to remember that he is an alliance warrior, not a horde warrior. Odds are he's put hamstring on everything in his dog around him, or everything is like slowed around him. The sheer act of him running away in a straight line, he'll love tap the mage as he goes by to force ice block. Just like it greatly reduces our Paladin DPS when we're running away with freedom and nothing can slow us down, it also greatly reduces warrior DPS if they just run away in a straight line. So often, like running away in a straight line, and then something like, you know, healing potion or whipper root tuber, burrower shell, their class trinket that, like, you know, gives them HP is more than enough to time out everything. And of course, if they're running away in a straight line, we're running away in a straight line. If we're running away in a straight line, they should be running away in a straight line. It all matches out. Just be consistent in your actions as a paladin. And if you have to, like, inform the warrior what he really should be doing in this situation, and they'll figure it out real fast. So there's a lot of things the warrior can do to mitigate the damage, the danger that he's in, and if he's not doing it, well, that's his own damn fault. And we don't worry about that. We're just here to do our damn job. Damn it, I'm trying to clean my glasses here. I don't know why they're so dirty. All right, 30-yard range complete. Let's talk about the 20-yard range. All right, well, the 20-yard range has a bit of a problem, and that is that we are usually at a 30-yard range mark in healing. So their major issue is that they have to somehow get closer to us and then interrupt our healing without us noticing, without us deciding that we want to run away, and they need to either do it on a flank. Listen to this stuff real fast here. Or they need to, what's the other thing? Walk through the warrior, right? So if a shaman's here and he wants to interrupt me, he has to march his happy little ass all the way over here before he can, you know, literally removing his DPS from the equation until he gets here. He can throw like a shock from A to B until he gets here, and then he can earth shock me. This is way too close to a highly mobile alliance warrior for comfort. So they have the same problem as the mage, except they don't have blink. Like the mage got away with it because he could get right here and then blink forward. A shaman literally has to walk through the warrior without getting slowed or hamstring and then hope to God that he gets within range. It's just a terrible idea. Or he has to try to do the whole flanking thing, which is going to end about as well for him as it did for the mage. One sec, let me cough. All right, better. Right, so that's a really big problem for them. Really good warriors will see the shaman moving, and there's only one reason a shaman would be pushing this far forward. They almost never do this. And he'll just, you know, casually start chasing after them. Like, no, where are you going, boy? Or he'll just do like a short little intercept and give him a... I prefer piercing howl because you don't have to get that close, but, you know, give him a nice little hamstring and then turn around and go back to whatever the hell he was doing. A warrior has no problem being on top of a shaman and giving him the business. In fact, it's one of the best places to be for a warrior. Like in this scenario, if you had a mage to your rear and a shaman over here, or this is not a good scenario. What I'm basically trying to say is there are certain classes mages love to physically be on top of, whether they're able to do significant damage to them or not, just because their DPS is being removed from the equation. So if a warrior is physically on top of a mage who is just blinked, their DPS is being removed from the equation, but they literally cannot do damage to them, They are perfectly happy with this scenario. Perfectly happy. Alliance warriors win fights through attrition and mobility. Like, we're not like the Horde. This isn't a Horde type of thing. It's through attrition and mobility. So if the warrior, is perfectly happy being out here in Narnia with the mage, he's perfectly happy being out here in Narnia with the mage, like literally doing no DPS because he's removing mage DPS from the equation. He's waiting for his healer to be able to heal again. He's mitigating enemy DPS, so he's staying alive. All he has to do is stay alive until this paladin can free heal, and then he can literally go and kill everybody. The warrior is literally invincible as long as the paladin can heal. And if the paladin can't heal, he is a mortal being. And as he plays warriors should play as such when the paladin cannot heal, and should also play as such when the paladin can heal. Immortal and mortal. But they're always highly mobile, and they need to use it. So, for example, an alliance warrior would let's say this is the scenario. Okay, there's a shaman over here. I don't know how he got there, but let's just say he's there. Okay, so we had a mage blink forward and try to counterspell the paladin. We have a shaman who pushed out here to try to get in a position to counterspell shock the paladin. What would the warrior do? Well, he would put hamstring on this warrior. He's likely has freedom on, so he's highly mobile. He would run over to this mage and be like, yo, homie, do you have an ice block? And if the mage ice blocked, he'd be like, cool. And he would just intercept this dingus out here and move a little bit further away if possible from the combat. But he's more than happy to get on top of this guy. Okay, let's look at this situation tactically, right? Our mage is an ice block. He can remove ice block now and start casting spells. Our warrior is hamstrung. So the best thing, he might be able to get an intercept off, but that's going to take a few seconds because he was running after the warrior this direction. Often what happens is they'll just intercept on top of the warrior, and if they're stupid, and then because his intercept is over here, he's stuck over here. But if he's smart, he holds his intercept, but he still is kind of really slow. But again, our warrior has to play like a mortal. What are the warrior rules? When the paladin can heal, you are immortal, and when the paladin can't heal, you are mortal. All right? Those are the rules of the warrior. So he'll intercept this shaman to remove his DPS from the equation for a bit, but then he'll keep running away if this warrior keeps running at him. Because, again, he just wants to limit the DPS until the paladin can heal again. And when the paladin can heal again, the next thing you know, they're just back in on it. And that's basically just what that looks like. So good warrior play really complements good paladin play. Let me just point that out. So shamans have a really big problem. The vast majority of them, keep in mind there's usually other stuff in the middle here. The vast majority of the time, the shaman's just going to sit in the background and start trying to nuke the crap out of the warrior. But just like us, the best thing for the warrior to do in this situation is just to run away. Give a little love tap to the mage on the way out. If he really doesn't like if he gets intercepted out here, or he doesn't like being frostbolted, he can, like the warrior's physically on top of him. Like, let's say he gets out here, our hamstrung warrior was chasing a little bit. Our hamstrung warrior decides that he wants to intercept him. Our mage has canceled ice block and is casting a frostbolt. Our shaman boy is also chasing because his DPS just fell off a cliff. Don't be surprised if our warrior buddy will either keep running away or he'll just intercept right back on the mage because, again, he'll ask him, hey, do you have that ice block we talked about? I saw you just used one. I haven't used intercept yet. What the hell are you doing? I'm about to cut you in half. Either way, he'll take his DPS out of the equation. Shaman has to root himself in order to cast a spell. He's taken the DPS of the warrior out of the equation because, again, this warrior is slowed, so now he has to, like, march his ass slowly backwards, and then the warrior will start running something like this direction because, again, he's trying to mitigate the shaman DPS. He'll catch a lightning bolt, maybe a chain lightning from the shaman here, but you can see his movement is beautiful for negating, he's playing like a mortal. Right, he's playing like a mortal god, basically. Round about this time, Paladin's going to be able to heal again. And so he'll keep running away because he wants to mitigate the DPS, but he'll catch a heal and he'll be like, hell yeah, and he'll just get right back on, and everyone's dead now. Everyone dies now. Okay, if this was a 3v2, everyone is now dead. And he's dead because this warrior has played this beautifully. He's used his mobility. He's limited other people's mobility. Beautiful, beautiful play. All right. This is actually a lot more common than you would think, believe it or not. It's actually quite common to run into mages. I mean, warriors who actually know what the hell they're doing versus warriors who don't know what the hell they're doing, which I kind of find interesting. At least it used to be. There might be a lot of really dumb warriors these days that need to watch this video, and you probably might want to yell at them and make them watch this video. Literally just tell them it's like at the, I don't know, 30-minute mark or whatever the hell I'm talking about proper warrior play. Maybe I'll throw it in the title, like, you know, healing and proper warrior play when in Battlegrounds. So, yeah. This is the healing perspective. What else is there? Definitely kill Succubus. Please, please, for the love of God. All right, who's next? I think it's a Warlock. He's also got the 20-yard range. We don't really worry about Hunters. I mean, like 15-yard range scatter shot. Hunters are almost always off in the flank, shooting into things. They're quite mobile. It is usually a cold day in hell that we get scatter shotted by a hunter, just because they don't want to push that deep. If you see a hunter running at you, you can just, you know, run away. It's kind of the same thing as a warlock. So basically everything I'm about to say for warlock also goes for hunter and scattershot, except hunters are a little faster, but they also have a 15-yard range, but warlocks also have to cast. It's like yada, yada, yada. So the place warlocks usually like to exist is the same place a shaman likes to exist, in the rear with the gear, behind the warrior, blasting away. They like this position for the same reason we like this position, and that is anything that wants to get them has to go through an angry, pissed off orc warrior, or possibly like 2 or 3 orc warriors. They usually don't like being on the flanks because that's where hunters and mages live, and life kind of sucks for them. They have the same issues in life that we kind of do. Because the mage can always blink and counterspell them, and they usually hate that. They don't want to be on the flanks with a hunter, because hunters will absolutely murder them. So usually they're positioned in this center location right behind the warrior. It just is what it is. Okay? Alright, so let's talk about this. Warrior, the succubus, because if he has a succubus, has a 30-yard fucking range and can be set out on her own to do her thing and stop us from healing. So you can see the dilemma we're in if warrior don't know, see succubus, kill succubus, right? That's a fucking problem. If the succubus is back here, we usually don't give a shit. Like who cares? There is a damage mitigation thing. A good warrior in this scenario would do something like this. All right, watch this crap. All right, you see the mage blink forward and do his counterspell on the flank. Now our mage boy has an option, right? He can intercept over here and do that whole thing that we just talked about, or he can intercept into the rear and get on top of our shaman friend, if that makes any sense. In this scenario, you're going to want to get on top of the warlock, and this is kind of... do we want to get on top of the warlock? I don't know. It's actually both options are really good. No, my bad. I'm thinking intercept on top of the warlock, kill the succubus, and then start giving the warlock the business. That is an option. It depends on how high life you are and the combat state and how much damage you think this warlock is going to do. If this warlock hasn't put very many dots up yet, then I would highly suggest intercepting on top of... Well, actually, I would intercept on top of the warlock, turn around and just absolutely slaughter the succubus, mostly for rage, but just to get rid of it, and then just start giving the warlock the business. At best, this warrior can intercept back over to you. The mage doesn't really have a target anymore. He can't add his DPS to this. All he can really do is cast some spells on the paladin. Paladin in this case will be pushing forward. Not the worst idea in the world. If you have a bunch of dots on you, then life probably looks different. You might want to go this way and do that thing. Basically, I'm asking a serious question here to all you Paladin players. How is this warlock going to stop you from healing in this scenario? Like, let's say the mage didn't exist. Let's put the mage back over here, and let's put something else that also has like a 20-yard range. Let's put the hunter out here. All right, cool. Blip. how is the Warlock, how are these guys with their like 20-yard range stop me from, how am I going to be stopped from healed in this scenario? Are they going to, it's only the succubus. It's the succubus running within spitting distance of the warrior and trying to seduce me, which is a spell cast. So as long as the warrior knows to kill the succubus, that this isn't really a problem. So I'm just leaning back in the chair talking for a second here. Is the warlock going to run up towards this warrior and try to cast a fear when the warrior is still highly mobile and can just mosey on over to him and tell him to shut the fuck up? How is he going to get around this warrior when the warrior is just as fast as he is and can put a hamstring on him or piercing howl him, like slow him? How is that going to work? How is the hunter going to do this? They have to be on the flanks. And we already talked about why on the flanks kind of sucks. All right, so let's say you're, you know, an enterprising warlock and you want to be on the flank. Well, if you recall what happened to the mage when they try to do the whole flanking thing, you can imagine what the hell happens to a warlock when they try to do the whole flanking thing. What happens is the succubus usually comes out, well, she usually travels in a straight line, and the warrior just literally is like, you know, I can move at full speed, right? Doesn't even intercept. Just like la 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 la. Doesn't even use intercept. Just moseys on over here and murders the succubus. And now he's free to do whatever the hell he wants. Which will probably be, why are you casting this shit on me, you piece of crap? And he'll probably intercept on this dickhead. Warrior, if he's dumb, he intercepted him here. If he's smart, he intercepted him when he intercepted. So now there's a warrior on over here. But you're still a free casting paladin. You give literally no shits. Like, your play is literally to walk up and start, you know, cleansing the crap out of him. Maybe the hunter is maneuvering to try to stop your healing. Like, the hunter's coming this way because he knows the warrior can't do anything about it. You know, scatter shot you kind of a deal. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, yeah. But in this situation, freedom is no longer required on the warrior because nobody's going anywhere. Nobody has intercept. Nobody's doing anything. So you just cast Blessing of Sacrifice, which is going to pop any scatter shot immediately. And all you do in this situation is you just cleanse. You're like, I don't care. I'm just going to cleanse all the dots off this guy because the warlock's not casting any hard spells. Like, this isn't happening. I'm not getting intercepted. The warrior just intercepted me. This succubus is fucking dead. I don't even know why she's still on this screen. Go away. I can get scatter-shotted. So the moment I go for a heal, like, which will probably be Flash of Lights, because I want the quicker heal to bait out the scatter shot. I'll get scatter-shotted, but it'll break instantly because homie over here is taking a lot of damage. And then I can just heal him to full. Everybody dies. Okay? This warrior is going to murder this warlock. Then he's going to turn around and start giving this warrior the business. When his intercept is up, he might intercept on top of the hunter to stop his DPS and start giving him the business. The warrior will intercept after him. But you have this warlock is gone. He's fucking dead. And it's just a matter of time before free casting Holy Paladin just kills everything dies. Everybody loses now. All right, are we clear about this? Good warriors know how to move. That's all I got to say. And the situation doesn't look any better if we had the hunter on the flank. Ugh. The situation doesn't look any better if we had the hunter on the flank versus the warlock on the flank. The reason for this, of course, is you saw how easily we just shrugged off the scatter shot and went right back to healing. Yeah. And that is what it is. Okay. The other thing that you can be supporting, we'll talk about this later, but the other class that's really good to support as a warrior, there's like a tier list of classes that you can support as a warrior. A paladin can support we can support any two classes. So we can support two warriors or one of any other class at the same time. Literally, we're putting freedom on... Okay, let's say there's two warriors that we're supporting, right? We put freedom on one warrior, and we put a Blessing of Sacrifice on the other warrior, and we just spam cleanse on the warrior who does not have freedom on him to keep him mobile. If there's just one warrior... when we have Blessing of Sacrifice on him, because we have identified that we need it, and our identification for why we need Blessing of Sacrifice on him is going to be times when we know he does not need freedom anymore. We just put Blessing of Sacrifice on him as good measure. And the other time, of course, is if we're about to get CC'd by something that we really would not want freedom on the warrior, we'd want Blessing of Sacrifice on the only other dude around. But if there's two warriors, then it becomes much easier of a scenario. But what I'm trying to say here is, when you have freedom on your warrior, you're healing him. When you have Blessing of Sacrifice on your warrior, you're healing him, but you're also prioritizing a lot of cleanses on him because you don't have freedom on him. And if there's two warriors, then it becomes very easy because you freedom one of them and you spam cleanse the other one. Our freedom lasts 16 seconds and is on a 20-second cooldown, so it's very rare. Now, in that shaman scenario, you could say to yourself, what if the shaman purged freedom off, blah, 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 blah. Very hard for them to get it doesn't change anything because the warrior is still working with hamstring and intercept, and very quickly you can see that scenario plays out very similarly to the one we already talked about. Usually they're not purging freedoms because warriors tend to have a hell of a lot more things on them. Throw this away. Jesus, go away. Warriors will have a lot more buffs on them than just freedom. So it's kind of a waste of time for a shaman to roll up and be like, freedom, 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 freedom. Oh, shit. Is the fight already decided? Oh, crap. Like, they need to kill this warrior inside the counterspell duration, or the paladin warrior, whether you spam purge on him or not, is going to kill everything. Like, that's what's about to happen. But they can purge freedom off, but it usually doesn't change the equation of anything because, you know, the mage isn't going anywhere. I'm saying intercept is still a thing, and the warrior only needs freedom on him for a second. And what's worse is that the shaman both has to purge 1.5 second GCD, and then he has to get a frost shock on the warrior, and only then did he slow down the warrior. So if the mage just blinked through him and the warrior turns around immediately, and the shaman purges the warrior, and he just happens to get freedom off, he needs to slow on him immediately, or the mage is going to have issues. That's a lot of coordination, though. Kind of rare to see that, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, super rare. I'm not gonna lie. That's a lot of coordination. Usually don't see that. Don't ask me why you don't see that, but you don't. What else do we need to talk about? Shaman, Earth Shock. Okay, cool. At least we can talk about Shaman. We're not screwing around mentioning Shaman. Not Earth Shock, Frost Shock. Alright, let's say there's a shaman on the flank, and we are in Narnia. Healing away. How the fuck is he going to Earth Shock me? I don't know. I don't know how maybe he's mounted? Okay, so he mounts on the flank. He's like, yeah, I'm going to get within this Earth Shock range. Scroll up a bit. I'm going to get within Earth Shock range. Cool, I'm in zoom! Intercept. Now what? Paladin can still heal. Earth Shock is not enough of a stop heal to be alone out in Narnia with a fucking warrior. Maybe our boy here can help, but this is still death. A shaman's gonna die, homie. He's ugh. All right. What's the other option? We hide behind the shaman or the warrior, like we said. What's gonna happen? Do we walk through the warrior? We're gonna get hamstrung and slowed down, and then it doesn't matter. And what's worse is we're not adding our DPS to the equation anymore because we were moving. And now that we're in this general vicinity, Senior Warrior is just not going to let us add much of our DPS to this equation. This was a terrible idea. So it's a flank operation, which is a really bad idea, or it's go through the warrior, which is a really bad idea, which is why they usually sit out here in the middle of nowhere and just cast spells into the warrior. The warrior might get frisky and just intercept over him and tell him to shut the hell up. Because he's not stopping the healing from the paladin. And of course, as the paladin, we just have to fall a little bit because we technically have a 40-yard range. We'll stop right about here and cast a nice big fat juicy heal on our warrior. The combat situation probably looks something like this at this point. Cast a nice big fat juicy heal on our warrior and then run up a bit more until he needs healing, and then cast a nice big fat... These guys are dead. Everyone here dies, right? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I don't know how to win this. You really have to go up to like 3v1 before they even stand a chance. and even then, it's not super pretty. Yeah, I know this is the Alliance Warrior, but we're putting... Just leave me alone. You really have to add a +1 to this equation. So let's say, like Warlock, Succubus, things here look a little dangerous. This is still not a problem because all we have to do is cast, like, you know, Holy Light spam into the Warrior, and he's not going to die. Even if this is a Destrolock, and even if this is an Elemental Shaman, he's probably going to survive, no problem. It's still in his best interest, though, to get on one of these spellcasters, if at all possible, and to kill the Succubus, because the Succubus will be doing her thing, right? So, identifying this situation as a Paladin would basically cause us to run for... We wouldn't be standing out here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for a shit ton of damage to come on the Warrior and the Warrior to make some kind of a move. If we stood out here twiddling our thumbs, the only option for the Warrior is to run away. Is to hamstring this Warrior and run the fuck away. He has no other option here. Because we are stupid, because our healer is stupid and he's twiddling his thumbs. He doesn't want to get his hands dirty. The correct course of action is to notice this situation developing and to move forward closer as the Paladin. Because you've moved closer, now suddenly the Paladin, the Warrior has the option of just intercepting, murdering, getting on top of one of the bursting spellcasters to completely negate a shit ton of their DPS. Nothing is stopping us from healing. Nothing is stopping us from cleansing. Both cleanse and heal have like a 40-yard range. We are perfectly... the Warrior's effectively immortal. At this range, however, we are in danger of being intercepted. So let's just assume the Warrior intercepts us. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm going to intercept you. And then suddenly, okay, cool, now we're actually reaching. Look at this. Look how long it took us to reach for one of our fucking abilities. Look at this shit. Are you paying attention? Do you see how long it took us to reach for one of our fucking abilities? It's a 3v1. It's the 20-yard range mark. Boom. Now we have to use Blessing of protection on ourselves. Cool. This Warrior has removed his DPS from the equation. He's not stopping us from doing fuck all. We can cleanse all the dots from this Warlock off of him. The only damage source that's really coming in at the Warrior at this point is from this free casting Elemental Shaman at close range, which is scary, but it's the Warrior can take it. He's a champion. Our Warrior friend here, all he can do is like maybe throw a grenade. And we may or may, since we have nothing better to do, we probably tried to stun him. Let's just assume our stun attempt failed. So we tried to stun him for 6 seconds. It didn't work. So we just, you know, bopped ourselves. Hell, we're feeling frisky. So we just bopped ourselves and went for the stun at the same time. Win, lose, or draw. He can try to grenade you. There's probably a 50% whiff chance on the grenade. You're definitely getting off a heal before he gets this grenade off. Just because that's usually how things work. Or the grenade goes off because you're on the global cooldown, whatever. Point is, you're easily free casting. Everyone here dies. Okay, the end conclusion of this is everyone here dies. There's no fucking way in hell a shaman can kill a warrior fast enough who's gotten a few cleanses in this scenario before we're able to start healing him, no problem. Worst case scenario... we get grenaded and get stunned for 3 seconds, and we say, hell no. We actually use our PvP trinket here, and we're like, okay, fine, fuck you. I tried to avoid the grenade stun, but the grenade stun went through anyways. My warrior's taking a fucking beating. Fine, whatever. Have both of my relatively quick cooldown trinkets. Here, have some big, fat, juicy heals. Another really good trinket to pair with all of this is like any kind of fire resist trinket. So, like, Blazing Medallion is super good. I don't think Fire Reflector works on Nade Stun. I've never tested it, but Fire Reflector would be really good, because the only thing that's going to happen in this scenario is all he can do is Grenade. Maybe Tidal Charm. Maybe Tidal Charm and Grenade. But you can easily see how we still have tools to just make this a non-equation. And we're going to easily keep our warrior buddy here alive. Our warrior still has plenty of health options, keep in mind. He still has Whipper-Root Tuber. He still has whatever his trinkets are. He still has a healing potion. He's going to be fine. He still has his warrior class trinket for plus 30% life or something. I think it's 15% life. He has possibly last stand. You know, he's got all kinds of things he can do. He's fine. He's got fear. He can AoE fear a motherfucker. So he could literally AoE fear this warlock and then jump on this shaman to mitigate DPS more. He's not going to die. And this warrior can't stop you from healing if you know your stuff. Like, it's just not happening. Which means everybody here is now dead. Okay, are we clear on that? All right, cool. Let me do some Control Z action here. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and Control Z, Control Z. Okay, cool. So we're back. All right, cool. All right, so are we done talking about the 20-yard life at the 20-yard mark? Question mark. I'll have to go look. All right, let me go back over here. Yep, we're done at the 20-yard mark. So you can see the 20-yard mark is a little bit more dynamic. The warrior has to be a little bit more on his game, but no more so on his game than if it was the 30-yard range. When we're done here, I'll talk about the other players besides a warrior. We're almost always healing a warrior. Pally warrior is a thing. Alliance warriors played Alliance warriors because Paladins existed. And we are more than happy to support them, and everybody is very happy. But Paladins supporting warriors is just the Alliance thing to do. The only time we're not doing this is if there's no warrior around to support, or if the warrior around is too stupid to support, or if they are horrifyingly undergeared so that we just can't get heals into them, and it's just not our problem. Other really good classes to support in lieu of a warrior is a rogue. Supporting a rogue plays fascinatingly well. It plays just like supporting a warrior. Primarily because they have slowing poison, they have sprint, they have blind, just about all the tactics we talked about the warrior being able to do. They have evasion, a rogue can also get away with. So supporting a rogue is sometimes even more scary for certain spellcasters than supporting a warrior. So for example, you saw the mage, when he was intercepted on, he had to ice block, right? And then once the warrior moved away from him, he could get out of the ice block and start casting spells again. They can't do that versus a rogue. Because if a rogue sprints and forces them to ice block after the blink, and then keeps running, yeah, he's going to be perfectly fine. They can wait out the counter spell, no problem. If the mage is dumb enough to get out of his ice block, then the rogue basically just turns around and is like, do you have a second ice block? Because if not, you're about to die. And, you know, sure enough, they can second ice block, and then the rogue just literally runs away again. It's like, what the hell? So rogues, as long as they have sprint up, are super, super easy to support. They're even better than warriors, technically. It's kind of fascinating. So best second choice of support, and often even better to support than a warrior is a rogue. The other really amazing thing about supporting a rogue over a warrior is rogues are rarely stupid. They know how to use movement. They know how to use their abilities. They know how to use CC. They are not dumb. It's a natural part of their livelihood is to use all these abilities not to die in dangerous situations. And because they have freedom on them now, and because they have cleansing support and healing support, basically you'll never really support a stupid rogue. Whereas it's like a 50-50 chance whether or not your warrior is mentally challenged. Like, I'll just put it that way. Other good classes to support that are absolutely amazing. Paladin Warlock is probably the most terrifying duo in the entire game. Holy shit. Paladin Warlock is nasty, especially Affliction Warlock. Pally Warlock is one of those duo combos that is, I would say it's even better. The only reason I can't say it's... that's a good question. It's actually literally objectively superior to Pally Warrior, but it's so close that it's hard to make a determinant. It's basically like the... Yeah, it comes down to the whole rogue argument thing again. If you have a well-geared warrior who knows his stuff, Pally Warrior is monstrous. If you have a Paladin Rogue, they're also really good, but only because the rogue's not going to be stupid, right? A Warlock is in a similar boat where it's like, they can be stupid or they can be really good, and it doesn't matter because they're a range class. So it's like, as long as they can find their damn abilities and they know what to run away from and what not to run away from, they're good to go. Usually Affliction Warlocks aren't fucking around with, they got a warrior on them. They're not screwing around with hard casting spells. This isn't a thing. They're just going to put Curse of Exhaustion on this warrior. They're going to use the fact that Freedom is on them to get some distance. And they're just going to run around dotting everybody up like it's going out of style. They're going to fear this. They're going to seduce that. Oh, damn, my succubus pet died. Who cares? It's actually a lot better if the warlock has the Voidwalker pet and has some demonology stuff going on. Like Soul Link Warlock Paladin is absolutely nightmare scenario. They can 4v1 on the regular, whereas 4v1ing for Paladin Warrior is going to require bubble. And even then, you will often lose your life as a Paladin. So I'll give you I'm just sitting back and talking for a sec here. My bad. I'm not showing you any visuals. So I've been in 4v1 scenarios as a Paladin where this is the scenario. There'll be like a shaman and 3 mages versus Pally Warrior. And the warrior will jump on top of the shaman and give him the business. Like the shaman is going to die. Like really hard, and I'll be trying to help out and stuff, but I'm existing in an ocean of counterspell, and I know it, so I both have to force the mages to counterspell me, but at the same time I can't really stop them from counterspelling me. I'm trying to say at the same time I don't want them to counterspell me because I at least want to get like freedom on this warrior and stuff like that. So I'll be like, you know, running at mages to stun them after blinks, yada, 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 doing this, doing that. Basically, we're just trying to kill the shaman. There have been a lot of times where we will succeed in killing the shaman, but it's only a matter of time before I die because I've got 3 mages who have counterspelled me and are currently in the business of pumping frostbolts into me until I expire. Usually, you'll see the direness of the situation coming. I'll run in such a way that I'll survive the counterspell, despite the attention of like all 3 mages. But then there's going to be more counterspells behind that, and I'm low life, which means I have to bubble. And I'll bubble, heal myself to full, make sure the warrior gets healed to full. I'm trying to think about the scenario here. And I'll keep us both alive until bubble expires. Once bubble expires, I'm freedoming or blessing. Yeah, I'm probably blessing of sacrificing the warrior. About this time, the shaman is going to die a horrible death. But the mages are like, okay, now he doesn't have bubble. Now we have counterspell on him, and they'll kill me, right? But the last action on planet Earth that you take as a paladin is to freedom the warrior. Like right before you die, you give the middle finger to these 3 mages, and you give your Chad warrior a freedom. Those mages are now about to get absolutely murdered. They better all have double ice block, or they're all about to die. Because they're just going to be intercepted, hamstrung, intercepted, charge, intercepted. Freedom wears off. Next thing you know, the free action potion comes out. This warrior is about to give everybody and his dog the business. It is actually a very, very scary time to be a mage under these circumstances. When this warrior still has freedom on. And now you might think to yourself, all right, well, just sheep him, right? Like the best course of action is, yeah, you try coordinating 3 fucking semi-retarded monkeys, aka mages, to sheep the warrior and leave him alone. I dare you to try to coordinate that. Also, if they're sheeping him, like they're not killing him. So what happens? He comes out of the sheep. It's just a bad time. Just trust me on this. Bad time. There have been plenty of times where I'll come back and for some reason the warrior has killed all 3 mages. Now, I don't know how that happened because in theory they should just be able to sheep the warrior. But it has happened. I think part of the problem is we're usually in a battleground in such a scenario where they know there's a very short time window before the paladin just comes back again. Right, like I'm probably back in this fight in about 20 seconds. They probably don't. Some of them are thinking we need to sheep this warrior or he's going to kill us all. and the others are thinking we need to kill this warrior right now before this damn paladin comes back. Both are correct answers. And so what ends up happening is they try to kill the warrior, and the warrior takes a few of them with him at a minimum. And then both of us res back up again, or it's like a paladin versus a mage. Well, you see the problem. You will win that fight. This is battleground stuff, so yeah, it's disgusting. The reason why Warlock, but anyways, back on topic. Warlock is just awesome because they're still highly mobile. They're dotting everything up. When you're counterspelled, they're still super hard to kill if they have Voidwalker. It doesn't take a rocket science for them to figure out what they need to do. Proper play for them when being supported by a paladin healer is their natural proper play, which is we just run around, try to they use their mobility to try to mitigate DPS on them and on others. They use fear to try to mitigate DPS, and they just dot the world up, right? Just basically just watch the world burn kind of a thing. So all they have to do is everything they're used to doing, and just wait for the counterspell, the paladin to wear off, and next thing you know, they're invincible and everybody dies. Okay, GG's. Hunters are also really good to support as a paladin, again, because of that high mobility aspect. Their toolkit and their lifestyle is the same, so their natural play style, same scenario, leans in to what they need to do if the paladin is counterspelled anyways. Also we make them highly mobile, which they have slows and stuff, which again, so they're kind of in that warrior scenario. Again, if you're supporting a hunter, they're not going to be stupid, which is a plus. They won't screw it up. Shamans don't exist. Priests, you can support a shadow priest. Shadow priests are just standing there melting everybody's face off. They usually don't give a shit if you're counterspelled or not, because they're kind of super tanky. I don't know why. Priests usually like being on the flanks. They don't like being in the thick of things. So that's usually a different scenario. But they're an okay partner, but they're definitely not very good. Druids, you'll very rarely have a druid partner, but when you do, they are a nightmare scenario for people. Assuming they're a caster druid. Kitty cat druids play kind of like rogues. Super rare. I wouldn't know much about that. Super rare to see that. They're usually running flags or some crap like that. And mages are also extremely good to support, just because mages find themselves in a very strange scenario where it's like, if they're fighting enemy melee, all they have to do is get away from them and they win. Well, freedom and like a heal from us and they're good to go. So a mage could be fighting like a rogue and a warrior, and all we have to do is freedom him, put one holy light on him, and literally ignore him, and he will win that fight. Not even an issue. The other classes that could give him problems, specifically range classes like mages, could have problems fighting hunters. They could have problems fighting elemental shamans. They could have problems fighting shadow priests or just even normal priests. All the range classes they're good at fighting the range classes, except for the hunters. Hunters delete mages. But the next thing you know, the mage starts catching some heals, Blessing of Sacrifice. If we throw our Blessing of Protection on them, very, very, very quickly they're winning things very easily that they shouldn't be winning before. Usually, supporting a mage is more of a drive-by scenario for us as a paladin. The reason for that is because they usually don't need us sitting there babysitting them to kill people. The only time they need us babysitting them is if they're doing like a ranged 2v1 against enemies. Like they're fighting like, a hunter and an elemental shaman at the same time at range. And then they'll be usually running away for their lives, and then they'll catch a heal from you. They'll see you. They'll see you healing. They'll be like, please God, say that heal is for me. Lo and behold, it is for them, and they'll immediately turn around and start casting spells and blasting away at the enemy because they know they're going to catch some heal spams for a good chunk of time, and that is definitely a scenario. A lot of times, it's just a drive-by for us. A lot of times, we're just like, okay, here, have the freedom. Here, have the bop, and then we just kind of go, here, have a heal to make sure you're topped off, and just go about our business. Because the way mages lose battles is they get attrited out. Basically, what I mean by that is a rogue can beat a mage like 1v1, but it's kind of this like long little dance where the mage is kind of getting chipped away at on the HP bar, and eventually like the last gasps of the rogue manage to kill the mage. But if you just do a drive, if you see that combat going on and you just put a holy light into the mage and top him off and go about your business, he will not lose that fight. Not in a million fucking years. They will in fact just stop moving, hold their ground, and just free cast into people and just win. It's kind of terrifying. They'll just start free casting into warriors because they're max life all of a sudden in a very close fight that they're used to being like, you know, a third life, and they're like, oh, I just automatically win this. All right, let's just get this over with. But you can support them. It's not bad. But by far, warrior, warlock, rogue, hunter are by far the best things to support. Hunters being backed up are an absolute nightmare. Nobody likes Viper Sting. Hunters just start Viper Stinging the world when they're backed up by a Paladin, because they'll get right into shit and start Viper Stinging. They don't mind. Rogues on them, they don't care. They got freedom. They just hamstring them and run away. Warriors get on them. They hamstring them and run away. They love Paladin support. Everybody loves Paladin support. All right, let's get back to it. Blind, Priest Fear, and Kick and Rogue. So we already covered, if you have a Rogue and a Warrior on you, just that's what we say bop for. We already showed that. We talked about that. Nothing really changes. Against a Rogue, it can be a little bit different, because if a Rogue decloaks on you, I think I already talked about this, you have multiple options. You can bop and try to heal and see if he has blind. If he has blind, he'll just stop one healing, but it'll break immediately, because Blessing of Sacrifice you still take damage from. So the blind will break immediately, and he might have like a Tidal Charm to go to or Grenade to go to. He really has to dig deep to try to shut down your healing. Usually what will happen from our perspective as a Paladin, if we have a Rogue on top of us, like a Rogue just decloaks and tries to interfere with our healing, is we analyze the situation and we decide whether or not we can see if we need to stun him or not. If I need to make sure that I'm getting healings into my allies right now, I don't have time to deal with this fucking Rogue. The correct answer is to bop yourself and to stun the Rogue for 6 seconds. They can't get out of it. They just have to sit it. Then you heal, you spam heal your team to full. And then you suffer the consequences of what happens when the Rogue comes out of the stun. Like, that's basically the scenario that you play with. Usually what will happen is it ends badly for the allies, because 6 seconds of free healing from a hunter, from a paladin, is really, really bad. We also talked about like the ranges. So it probably wouldn't surprise you very much to know that if a rogue popped up on our starboard bow and is giving us the business and we stun him for 6 seconds, it's like the warrior will... A good warrior will see that the paladin stunned him, because I know where the warrior's eyes are. The eyes are looking at... a good warrior's camera is looking at the paladin. He'll be like, okay, he's just going to stun the rogue and free heal. No reason to freak out. A warrior will sit here and fight until the rogue is about to come out of the stun, and then he'll just intercept back on top of the rogue and just start giving the rogue the business. I mean, like, why not? It's a really, really bad thing to do. This is why we're staying about 30 yards away from the warrior and not like 35, 40 yards away from the warrior, because it makes it much easier for the warrior to like intercept back on top of this. Our warlock friend, it's a very similar scenario. He'll see the thing going on, and he's like, highly mobile, running around, doing his thing anyways. He'll see what's happening, and he'll just, meander back kind of casually and stop for a second and cast a fear on this rogue, and the rogue will get feared and run away like a dumbass. It might be, they might be able to Forsaken out of it or something, but it's not super hard for the warlock to just, back up a bit. He's got all his dots ticking, yada, yada, yada. When he feels comfortable again, he'll just cast another fear. It's a nightmare scenario for the rogue. Very, very, very bad time. Like, not a good idea. Hunter, very similar situation. They're doing the highly mobile thing. They'll just scatter shot the rogue immediately upon coming out. Like, they'll wait for the blind to come out, then they'll scatter shot him. Then a pet will come over there and stun him. And the rogue's just like, God damn it. Meanwhile, you're just healing away as a paladin, and high mobility. Again, as long as your allies are playing like they're mortal, when you're having healing problems, everything's fine. And when they're playing like they have a fucking a paladin supporting them, when you're able to free heal, everything's good to go. Rogues, if you're supporting a rogue, it's the same scenario. They have sprint and stuff. So rogues know exactly what's happening even more than anybody else, which is kind of fascinating. So, for example, if this was a rogue buddy instead, let's just imagine whatever. Let's just imagine it's a rogue buddy. The rogue will, yeah, he'll fight a little bit more, you know, and then all of a sudden he'll sprint on over, and he'll literally cast a blind on on this guy, and then go right back to doing whatever the hell he wants. It's actually kind of fucked up. He's like, yeah, I know I know I'm getting free healed for the next 6 seconds, and I know when he comes out of it that when he throws blind, it's not going to do anything, and I'll just casually go over there and tell him to shut the fuck up. Or he'll use blind on some other enemy, like a shaman or a mage around here, and you'll want to use it on a mage because they can ice block out of it, like a shaman who doesn't have grounding totem down, and just tell him to shut the hell up. You'll also see some plays where they'll go out there, kill a grounding totem, blind the shaman, sprint back over here, like, you know, gouge the rogue so that you can get some distance, get slowing poison on the rogue, and they'll just start beating the crap out of the rogue. Like, yeah, I'm going to kill this rogue. Warrior might intercept on top of them, but, I mean, you got to free, the paladin is free and clear, and free healing. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's just a fascinating time to be alive. It is what it is, so it's not that big of a deal. We already talked briefly about priests. Priests are in a very similar scenario to everybody else. It's like a priest has to run at you in order to get the CC on you. It's like, okay, what does that look like? Is he going to flank run all the way out here? Actually, this isn't even where the paladin is. Our paladin, scroll up, our paladin is off in Narnia, right? We're at like a 0-yard mark. All right, so what the hell is our priest friend gonna do here? Is he gonna like run the gambit and try to get a fear on us? Okay, he can fear us. When he gets close, we just 6 seconds stun him, because technically his fear is an 8-yard range and our stun is a 10-yard range. So he gets close enough, we just stun him for 6 seconds. So now he has to use PvP trinket, and now he has to try to get a fear on us. Okay, cool. Let's say he ran all the way over here to fear us, just to get my PvP trinket. All right, awesome. Now what? Well, now he's got nothing. Like what? Tidal Charm, Goblin Mortar, maybe, fire, fucking a grenade. Like that's all he's got going. Like maybe he ran out here. Maybe while he was running out here, he was doing that stuff. Like he was trying to throw a grenade. He was using Goblin Mortar. He's like, I got to get out there and stop this jackass from healing. This whole time, he's not doing any DPS. He's not healing his team or anything like that. At any point in time, he can get intercepted by a warrior who's not going to care about fear whatsoever. He can get sheeped by any mage that's around. He can get scatter-shotted into, like, Frost Trap. All kinds of bad things can happen to him. A warlock can seduce him. Or the warlock who is highly mobile can just, run over there and fear him himself. Maybe he's an undead mage, so he breaks out of that for the first one, but then just another fear comes down, and that was... So now there goes his PvP trinket. Okay, so he ate a double fear, and he's still running at us. Okay, cool, he gets over there, he eats the stun. He has to sit that for 6 seconds. It's super rare to see it. Usually the scenario has devolved into this weird scenario where the two of you are really close together, and the shaman is in support, and the priest is running at you. This also happens with warlocks. Let's actually make this a bit more realistic here. Get my warrior. Boom. Okay, cool. Let's make this a bit more realistic. So you got like a warrior, a warlock behind here. A priest is somewhat on the flanks and in support. You as the paladin are about 10 yards away. Okay, this is a very realistic scenario for when you would see warlocks and priests run at you. These scenarios do happen, believe it or not. Usually what happened was the warrior intercepted on top of the paladin intercepted on top of the warrior, and you meandered away back a good 10 yards, and the priest and the warlock moved up to support, and you had to start healing right at this moment, so this just ends up being the scenario. What the hell is that? Anyways, this is a scenario that happens. I have like some tinnitus going or something. Let me check. Yeah, it's a little bit of tinnitus. Whatever. Who cares? My ear just decided to go and die off. I'm like, what the hell was that? Right. So what you'll see in this scenario is Warlock have to come closer. Warlock need to fear you. But he's got to come a lot closer because he has to cast like a 1.5 second fear. And if you see him casting a fear, you know, you just kind of like, you know, step away and then start healing again. So you end up in this weird scenario where the Warlock keeps having to chase you and try to fear you as you keep trying to back up. So the moral of the story is if Warlock is chasing you, you run away. Typically you won't run away in a straight line. You'll run away in kind of this weird little circle thing. But you're more than happy to reset the distance back out to what it was, you know, while at the same time just spamming cleanse away and letting the warrior do whatever the hell the warrior does. If the Warlock chases you too far, then Intercept 9000 is going to come out here and want to have a word with him. Because he also wants to catch some heals. He's like, I would like some heals. I'd also like this Warlock to have this nice, lovely little thing called a hamstring on him so that he can stop chasing the Paladin, and the Paladin can actually start healing some stuff. Awesome. Warlock accomplished absolutely fucking nothing by trying to chase you. Moral of the story, you have a Warlock running at you, run away. Let me repeat that. You got a Warlock running at you, run away. Run away, run away, run away. Run away. Okay? It's the best course of action. Just trust me on this. Exact same thing for the Priest. Priest is still casting dots, but you're still cleansing things. He has to get, like, super close to you. He doesn't want to get too close to this fucking warrior because he doesn't want to have a hamstring on him. Warrior might be moving to intercept him, kind of a thing, like, you know, trying to shadow. Trying to, literally, the correct term is intercept, but you're going to think I'm talking about the spell. He is trying to get a hamstring on this warrior, on this jackass without having to intercept him. He might be doing the same thing to the Warlock, but he also might not care. Because again, usually a good warrior won't give a shit. The reason why the good warrior won't give a shit is because they're usually not in danger of dying or anything. And the warrior and the Paladin is running away. So they're perfectly happy getting cleanses while the Paladin is running away and this stupid priest following him. And then just to intercept, you know, yada, yada, yada. Basically, the fact that they're running at us and the fact that we're running away reset the scenario, right? Back to the way we want it to be anyways. So, yeah, if they want to chase, just run away. That's just literally just the moral of the story. So if you see these classes running at you, just run away. There's no reason not to. And that literally concludes the end of this video. We have slowly talked about everything that can happen to you at the 30-yard range. We talked about everything that can happen at the 20-yard range. We've talked about everything that can happen at the 10-yard range and the scenario that you can find at the 10-yard range. And we've talked about all the classes that you can be a 2vx in support of. It looks a little bit different with Rogue, a little bit different with Hunter, a little bit different with Priest and Warlock. But it doesn't look different enough that everything is fine. You'll notice I haven't even touched Bubble yet. In this entire scenario, I haven't even touched Bubble. Like, Bubble is there just to bridge the gap between if your other abilities are on cooldown. If Bop is on cooldown, if your PvP trinket's on cooldown, if your anti-fire, your fire resist trinket is on cooldown, your Goblin Mortars, whatever the hell else your other trinket is. Be that a fiery emblem, be that a fire reflector, be that a just something that increases your resistances into the Oblivion. I'm reminded of the 100 to all resistances trinket for 1 minute, but your resistances are reduced by 10 every time you're hit by a spell. Trinket from AQ, really good. Lothar's is also really good. You want to have fire resist. What the hell does fire resist look like, Pallytime? I have a video. I forget what it is. I think the video is called Healing is Not What You Look Like. But the moral of the story... let me pause the video. I'll pull it up real fast. Alright, it's this video. Let's find it real quick here. Deep Holy and Raise is not what you think. Deep Holy and Rage is not what you think. This video degenerates into me talking about my favorite Paladin build and why. And the moral of the story is it's got a bunch of stuff on it. It's got a bunch of bits of tier 2 that have fire resist on it. It's got a Nixia Tooth Pendant, which has fire resist on it. Theoretically using Hand of Rag, which has fire resist on it. Ebon Hand is expensive, but it's the second best thing to get. In Fate, early on in the game, Ebon Hand is too expensive to be worth a damn. But when Fire Mages become a thing, Ebon Hand becomes like a Abyss one-handed item. Ebon Hand has really good stats, a really good one-handed melee weapon. It just has a very low proc chance of like 3% or something stupid like that. You're better off with a Deathbringer if you can get it off of Onyxia, the axe with Shadow Bolts. But Ebon Hand has stamina and 5 fire resist on it, making it probably, and it's slow enough that it's a good Reckoning one-handed weapon. It's probably the best one-handed weapon in the game in Phase 3 for what we're doing here. I definitely had it, but I had to, yeah, whatever. So you end up with something stupid, like, let's see if I eventually scroll down and look at the damn fire resist here. You're also using fire resist enchants. Onyxia Tooth Pendant. Yeah, okay. Onyxia Tooth Pendant, why? Somewhere around there. Shut up. But at that point, you have Thick Obsidian Breastplate, fire so it becomes kind of... Okay. All right, come on, has stuff. Benefits. Super. That still very high rated item. A lot about it, anyways. But you use the fire resist enchants over the plus 100 HP enchant, so this gets you 40 fire resist. This gear right here, you're running around with like 190 fire resist. Again, it's a 50% chance to resist nades. There's a 50% chance to resist goblin mortars. And we haven't even talked about the other PvP trinket, which might be like Blazing Emblem or Fire Reflector or something like that. But really, you want the fire resist because the #1 source of stuns that are coming out of our enemies when we play well and we've denied them the ability to do anything is going to be Goblin Mortar and Grenade. The only other thing we're ever going to see is, okay, there are some other stuff that comes out. Other things that come out are Rocket Helm. Rocket Helm, you just bop yourself. Bop removes Rocket Helms. Gnomish Mind Control Cap. You can PvP Trinket out of Gnomish Mind Control Cap. You can Bubble out of Gnomish Mind Control Cap. You can tell in all these scenarios that Bubble is just being held in reserve. A lot of times PvP Trinket is also being held in reserve. And a lot of the things that would screw us over from, like if our resistances are failing us, then out comes the PvP Trinket. If Rocket Helm hits us when we've already used this or that, we just go fine, whatever, and we bubble. So you get the point. You are, as long as you're playing correctly and you're using distance and you know when to run away and you know what to do and you're playing with someone who also knows what to do, you are a nightmare scenario for the Horde to deal with. A truly nightmarish scenario for the Horde to deal with. And you can get away with life just with these 3 trinkets and this 1 trinket and these 2 abilities and nothing else. It's actually kind of terrifying. Just make sure to put Blessing of... Don't might anything. Don't wisdom anything. Literally just put Blessing of Sacrifice on everything in its dog within range of you. Ignore their complaints. I've never had anybody complain about it. That's not true. I've had people complain about it until they saw how well I was keeping everybody alive, and then they were just like, oh, I guess everybody dies anyways. I just don't need wisdom buff because the Paladin's healing me instead. It doesn't take long for them to shut the hell up. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here, and Deus Volt, boys. Hopefully this video was informative about what to do. The TLDR of everything, of course, is run away from certain classes. Run away when you have Counterspell on you. And just try to keep your distance of about 30 yards. And make sure you're healing somebody who is decently well geared and who knows what the hell they're doing. If the warriors are well geared but don't know what the hell they're doing, attempt to inform them about what they should be doing if you want to, or just go heal like a class that you damn well know they can't fuck it up. So that would be Warlock, Rogue, Hunter, and then possibly Mage. Like if you're healing a really good Mage, you can pair up and duo with those guys super well. Warriors kind of need to know what the hell they're doing, but those other classes, their natural play is knowing what the hell to do anyways. So they're just going to naturally know what the hell to do, pair up with them instead. And I'll just leave it there and dig us old boys.